The sun hung low over the Arizona desert when Ethan Ward, a solitary rancher with a quiet heart and a habit of helping anyone in need, stepped out of his barn and froze at the sight before him, two enormous silhouettes moving slowly over the ridge. They were women, Apache women, taller than any he'd ever seen, towering close to 7 feet each, shoulders broad enough to cast long shadows across the dust. Their braids swung like ropes, their clothes worn from travel, and hunger carved deep into their eyes. Ethan's pulse raced, but instead of panic, compassion pushed him forward. He raised both hands, showing he carried nothing but a tin cup of water. The sisters halted, exchanging a wary glance, until the older one, her name later revealed as Atsa, stepped closer and whispered, in a voice heavy with exhaustion, "We haven't eaten in days." Ethan didn't hesitate. He led them to his porch, fed them bread, jerky, beans, and water, giving them more than he could spare. He didn't ask why they were starving, why they were wandering alone, or why they looked like warriors carved from stone. He simply fed them like guests, like humans. The younger sister, Kiona, stared at him with eyes full of disbelief, for no rancher in these tense times would dare show kindness to Apache strangers, let alone giant warrior women known among tribes and settlers alike as legends. When they finished eating, Atsa stood and placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder gently, almost solemnly. "You gave us life today," she murmured. "Our people will remember this." And with that, the giant sisters disappeared into the desert night. Ethan returned to his ranch chores, unaware that by dawn, the world around him would change forever. The next morning began like any other. Ethan saddled his horse, cleaned the barn, checked for coyotes near the chicken coop. But as the sun climbed higher, he felt an unnatural stillness in the air, the type that makes a man's instincts tighten like a coiled rope. A distant rumble carried over the hills, not thunder, not horses, something heavier. Then, from the ridge line, they appeared, first a handful, then dozens, then hundreds. Warriors. Apache warriors. 700 strong, painted for battle, feathers and spears catching the morning light like fiery mirrors. They surrounded his ranch in a tightening arc, silent, disciplined, deadly. Ethan stepped out slowly, hands raised, heart pounding so hard it shook his ribs. Never had he seen such a force gathered, not even in legends whispered in frontier towns. Horses snorted, arrows glinted, drums began to thrum with a heartbeat rhythm that made the dust vibrate at his feet. For a moment, Ethan wondered if he was about to die for a kindness he had freely given. Then the crowd parted. Out stepped the two giant sisters, Atsa and Kiona, now adorned in full warrior regalia, taller, more regal, more powerful than he remembered. Behind them walked an elderly chief with eyes as sharp as obsidian and a posture that radiated authority. Atsa approached Ethan and bowed her head slightly, an honor so rare it nearly buckled his knees. "You gave us food when we had nothing," she said loudly, her voice carrying over the entire gathered tribe. "You treated us without fear, without hate, without demand. For this, our people stand here not as your enemy, but as your shield." Ethan could barely breathe as the chief himself stepped forward, placing a hand on Atsa's arm before addressing Ethan. "Our daughters were returning from a long journey on behalf of our people. Many saw them as threats, hunted them, chased them from their rightful paths. But you, a lone rancher with nothing to gain, offered them your table. A man who shows honor in desperate times shows the heart of a warrior." The warriors beat their spears into the ground in unison, a thunderous salute that echoed across the valley. Ethan felt the vibration travel from the earth into his bones. But what happened next was something no man in frontier history had ever experienced. The chief announced that because Ethan had saved the tribe's giants, two of their most sacred protectors, the tribe owed him a life debt. 700 warriors, the entire might of the Apache mountain clans, pledged themselves to defend his ranch and his life for as long as the sun touched the desert. Ethan's jaw dropped, and tears burned the edges of his eyes, not out of fear, but out of overwhelming disbelief. He glanced at Atsa, who looked down at him with a rare softness, her stern warrior expression replaced with gratitude. "Few men show kindness without expecting something in return," she said. "But you acted from the heart." The chief lifted his staff. "From this day forward, you are under the guardianship of our people." Ethan stammered out, I only gave them food." But Atsa shook her head. Food given in a moment of need becomes a rope that ties lives together. Before Ethan could process it all, the warriors began spreading out, some patrolling the perimeter, others scanning the hills, others repairing the broken parts of his ranch fence. It was surreal, unbelievable, an army treating him not as a prisoner, not as a target, but as someone sacred. Kiona, the younger sister, crouched beside him, her crouching still putting her eye level just above his head, and smiled. "You may feel small, rancher," she teased, "but today the desert speaks your name." The day unfolded like a dream. The giant sisters walked the land with him, listening to him talk about cattle, water shortages, and the loneliness of ranch life. They laughed, especially Kiona, who teased Ethan about his tiny boots and tiny shovel compared to hers. By sunset, the ranch looked alive, bustling with warriors cooking, sharpening weapons, tending fires, singing old tribal songs. But no one touched Ethan's belongings. No one acted without respect. It was as if his home had become the heart of a great living tribe. At nightfall, the chief gathered everyone around a colossal fire built from logs thicker than Ethan's torso. He placed Ethan beside him and spoke again so all could hear, "Remember this man. His kindness travels farther than wind, farther than storm. Any man who threatens him, threatens us all." The warriors roared their approval. Ethan sat there stunned, overwhelmed, humbled. Atsa placed a giant hand gently on his back, careful, respectful, protective. "You are not alone anymore," she said softly. "Not ever." As the stars filled the sky, Ethan finally spoke, "I didn't expect anything from helping you." Atsa smiled. "That is why you have received more than you ever dreamed." The night burned bright with fire and song, Apache drums echoing into the heavens as if celebrating a legend born in a single act of compassion. Ethan realized something powerful: kindness was not weakness. Kindness could shake mountains. Kindness could summon an army. Kindness could carve a story into the desert that would be retold for generations. And at that moment, surrounded by 700 warriors and 2 colossal sisters who now vowed to protect him with their lives, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: belonging. The giant sisters stood beside him like towers of strength, watching the horizon with unwavering vigilance. And as the fire crackled and the warriors chanted, Ethan whispered to himself, "All this, because I gave food." The desert wind answered softly, carrying his words toward the mountains as if sealing them into legend. And viewers, if you want more powerful Western stories, emotional twists, and cinematic storytelling like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories continue.